So you guys know the story of how we met from our How We Met video, and you know where we're at now from our most recent videos, and how our marriage is ending in divorce. But you don't know our love story, and you don't know how we got here to the point where we're at, and how addiction played a part in the decision that we have made. And so we have decided to share our story with you guys in hopes that we can bring awareness, understanding, and so on, and for our sake and for our kids' sake, so that they can watch in the future and know that none of this was their fault and they didn't play even the tiniest part in our decision that we've made today. So on November 15th, 2014 at 6:00 p.m. we were married. We were married in California at this place called Simonian Farms, and it was the coolest place that I've ever seen. It was very eclectic, I think that's the word for it. There was these beautiful, beautiful Edison lights above the aisle. We got married outside and then we had the reception inside, and then there was these old-fashioned, I don't even know what to call them. I'm going to insert a whole bunch of pictures of these old-fashioned things that were on the inside, and they had old-fashioned soda and these gorgeous wooden tables, and it was so beautiful. And the wedding was not perfect in all of the little details, but it was perfect for us. On the day of the wedding, I received a handwritten note from Cody, and he had folded it into this little shape of a heart. I don't even know how he did it, but he folded it into this little shape of a heart. And I'm not sure where the note is. If I can find it, I'm gonna insert a picture of it at the very end of the video, but I'm not sure what that note went. But it was, I just remember having the hugest smile on my face reading it, thinking I was the luckiest girl in the entire world getting to marry a man who loved me as much as he loved me. We also, when we were engaged, I got this book that was our love story, and you kind of fill in different little notes to each other for forever, and I was filling this out the whole time we were engaged, and the day before the wedding I gave him the book, and so he wrote down, it says "My wish for you," and he wrote down something there, and then he wrote down our vows, and he wrote this on our wedding day, November 15th, 2014. And so I'm going to read you the top part that he wrote on the day of our wedding. It says, "My wish for you is that you always feel loved by me, no matter what we go through, no matter how many fights or arguments, no matter how big or how small. I will always and forever love you deep in my heart. I'm going to write my vows here so we can always look back at them and remember the feelings of today, so we always know the love we actually feel for each other." I didn't get to read this until after the wedding. And looking back on it now, it almost makes me want to cry because, sorry, my phone went off. It almost makes me want to cry because I was so sure of the man that I was marrying. I was so sure of our love and how things were going to go, and I knew things would not be perfect. We were gonna fight, we were gonna have arguments, we were gonna have times where we felt like we hated each other, and I'd always asked him, what are you gonna do in those times when you feel like you hate me, when you don't feel like you're lucky, when you don't feel like you want me anymore, that you want to give up? What are you gonna do? And he said, I'm going to look back at these things that I've written about you, and I'm going to always fight for you. And so I, in my heart, believed that no matter what we went through, the man that I was with was always going to fight for me, and I was always going to fight for him no matter how hard that it was. But I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about the wedding. So after I read the little shape of the heart, we got all ready for the wedding. We took some pictures before where he wasn't able to see me, and it was so cute to watch him like try and feel my dress or try to see what I was wearing, or he wanted to kiss me and we said no, you can't until the wedding. And so we had all of our friends and family. At the ceremony it was a lot smaller than the actual reception, but at the ceremony we had about 150 people. We had all of our closest friends and family. The aisle was lit with these mason jars that we had painted gold glitter all over, so they were sparkling as I walked down the aisle. The aisle was over the top. There was these gorgeous Edison bulbs that lit the aisle, and it was at night, so it was really dark, and it was so beautiful to see this aisle just completely lit up. I had a close friend of mine who I watched her daughter play the violin as my bridesmaids and groomsmen walked down the aisle. And right before I walked down the aisle, the song changed and my cousin sang so that I could walk down the aisle.
When the music started playing for her to come out, she came out with her dad, and I just kept thinking, one, how nervous I was, two, how beautiful she was, and three, how much I loved her outfit. She did a fantastic job picking out her wedding dress, and I love what she did with her veil. She didn't have like a normal veil that came over the face. She had it was like a little, it was like maybe this big, and it stuck in the back of her little bun. It was perfect. I loved it. She was so beautiful coming down the aisle, and when she was coming down, it kind of looked like maybe she was crying a little bit. I don't think she was. I think she was nervous too, but I was crying a little bit, and her dad was crying a lot, and so they came down the aisle, and I just kept thinking, how beautiful she was, and I was ready to spend the rest of my life with her.
I remember when I first saw him, because I stepped out into the aisle and they had me wait a little bit before I started walking because it was a long song and I wanted to get the whole song in there. And so I remember as I stepped onto the aisle, I just had this huge, stupid smile on my face, and looking at him, I could tell he was about to cry. He looked like he was about to cry, and back then he was very emotional and very, yeah, I think emotional is the word, and so he looked like he was going to cry, and I just had this dumb look on my face, just this huge smile. And I remember when they finally started to let me walk down the aisle, I was running. I was going way too fast down that aisle, and my dad kept trying to like pull my arm and slow me down, but I was like going. I was booking it. I was trying to get to the front of that aisle so that I could get there and be with him. We had these giant microphones that were there so that everyone could hear us because it was a pretty big space. And I just remember thinking, like, he's so far away, I just want to hold him, I just want to hug him, I can't get to him, and so we're holding our hands so far away, we weren't close enough. My harp teacher ended up playing a song for us, and so we were able to get close and so we could watch her, and he put his little arm around my back, and then of course we had to separate again, and I was like, but when he read his vows, I just remember being completely blown away.
My dearest love, I take you to be my partner for life. I promise, above all else, to live in truth with you and to communicate fully and fearlessly. I'll never let a loving thought go unspoken. I look forward to sharing laughter and tears, comfort and challenges, great joy and triumphs. Let us grow in heart, mind, and spirit, and stand together to face the world, because our love is far deeper and inexplicably beyond any calculation of time and place. Can't describe a feeling like that. You just let it flow in and surround you. Just remember, always and forever, I will love you.
I remember thinking, how did this come out of him? Like, I knew that he was good with his words, I knew that he was very eloquent, I thought that I knew his love for me, and when I read those, it blew me away, it blew my mind, and again, I just remember thinking, I am the luckiest woman in the entire world. How could I get somebody who loved me this much? and my vows were just awful compared to his. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, what? Wow, like I just didn't expect us, we hadn't talked about our vows beforehand, but we made it kind of like, okay, it's not that huge of a deal because we already know our love for each other, and so mine were just nothing compared to his, and it was crazy, and yeah, I just remember feeling blown away, so in love, and feeling like I was so lucky. When the kiss came time, I kind of like pulled away because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird, like, I don't know, it was weird that we were married, that it was finally to this point, that our love and all the things that we had gone through the past few months have came to this point, like, where we were finally married on this day. And he grabbed my face and pulled me in, and I'll insert a clip of it because it was actually really cute. We walked down the aisle, and you know, the whole wedding was just a blur. It goes by so fast. And I'm glad that we had our wedding video made because I truly wouldn't have even remembered most of it because it went by so fast. So fast. And all I remember thinking is I had the best time at our wedding. It was so much fun. I got to show him all the people that were so important to me in my life, and all the people that I loved got to meet the love of my life, you know, the most important person in my life then. And so it was so cool to have all these people together in one room and interacting with them and being able to introduce them to him and, you know, introduce him to them and show him a piece of my life, a big, huge part of my life, because we weren't from the same place, and so he didn't know a lot of the people that I knew or that were really, really, really important to me, such as my family, my friends that were there. And for the reception, we had around 400 people. We had a huge reception.
The first couple of days leading into the first couple of weeks of marriage was really, really good, actually. It was the cliche, you know, couples in love, that's all they can think about is each other, and planning their future and what they want to do and stuff like that. That was us. We did all those kind of things. We had this place rented out for us, and it wasn't a barn, but it was like a huge shed, and they renovated the shed to where the entire inside was basically the bedroom, living room, kitchen, and then they had a bathroom off to the side. And so we got to stay in there for a couple of weeks. It was on somebody's farm, and we were able to go out and kind of look at, they had a bunch of animals, and we were able to go out and walk by the horses and tour the farm and just kind of at our own leisure, and it was really nice being able to just spend that time together. I learned that she's a very intriguing, interesting enigma of a person. I've never met somebody like her before. The way that she has such deep love and understanding for other people, for other humans. It's unlike anything that I've ever really experienced or met somebody like that before. She's beautiful on the inside and the outside. I don't really have any words to describe that.
I remember, you know, the next few days after our wedding, I was sick again. I don't know if it was stress or something. I ended up having to go to the doctor, and I was just miserable, like so sick driving home to Oklahoma. And again, like, it made me feel so lucky to be married to the man who took care of me, who wasn't angry. Like, we had just gotten married, and I'm sick, and I'm grumpy, and I'm not doing very well, and he wasn't grumpy about it. He took care of me. Like, we couldn't even sleep in the same bed because I had to sleep on all of these things and take all these medications. I was just a hot mess, guys, but he loved me anyways, and he took care of me, and he made me feel like it was okay and like I was gonna be okay. That's one of the reasons, as you've seen in our How We Met videos, of why I decided to marry this man, and why I fell in love with him, and why I felt like I was the luckiest person in the world, is because he made me feel safe. He made me feel like everything was going to be okay, and no matter how much pain that I was in, or how scared I was, or how sad or hurting that I was, he made everything better. He knew what to say to me, he knew how to make me feel, he knew how to take care of me. And so I felt like I was, honestly, and I'm going to say it again and again and again, but I honestly felt like I was the luckiest person in the entire world. I have a quote on my Instagram. The quote says, "And at that moment you stop and think, maybe it's a privilege to be loved by you." And I didn't just write that on my Instagram because I thought it sounded good and I went with the picture. As cheesy as it sounds, I honestly believed that and felt that deep within my heart. And I knew no matter what that I was going to fight for this person. I really thought that, and I think everyone feels like that, nobody gets married just to get married, but I really honestly thought that that we were going to make it, that we were going to last, because no matter what, whether it was addiction, whether it was not being able to have children, whether it was financial issues and so on, it didn't matter, because we were going to choose to fight for each other, and he was going to make me feel safe forever, and I was going to do everything that I could in my power to show him how much that I loved him and how thankful that I was for him. And so when we got back to our life in Oklahoma, I was happy. I mean, we had a couple little fights, like we did. It's regular married life. We had things that came up. We had arguments. It was hard. Like, marriage is hard. It's not easy. Even for just regular circumstances, you have to learn to live with somebody new, to communicate with them, share your money, to do all these things that, you know, with a different person who might not have the same personality as you, beliefs as you, thoughts as you. It's hard meshing two lives together. It's not easy. And so we did have a lot of little arguments or little things, but it wasn't a big deal because I was so in love with this man. And he'd come home from work and all I wanted to do is just cuddle him and lay on him and everything. And we talked, one thing that I really loved about our relationship is I felt like we talked about everything. Our fears, my past, our pain, anything that we had ever been through, anything that we had ever been worried about. We talked about kids' names, we talked about financial stuff. Where are we going to be in the future? What are our goals? We had little family meetings. There's only two of us, but we had little family meetings where we'd write down what are our goals, how are we going to help each other achieve this, what do you love about this person today, and what little things make us frustrated. We went to some marriage classes, even though we didn't have any problems that I knew of. We went to some marriage classes because I thought anyone can benefit from these things, so we have the tools that we need now in the future. And so we went to these marriage classes that made us feel loved and happy and together, and we were like, wow, we're doing so great. People would tell us that they were jealous of the love that we had, and I told them, you know, it's just because we're choosing to fight for each other every day. We're choosing to put that other person first every day, and I genuinely believed that I was choosing to put him first no matter what, and I was going to do that forever, and it was. And I'm not even articulating this in the right way. I'm not even articulating this in the right way at all. Because the man that I married was compassionate. He was kind. He was loving. He was selfless. He put me first. He took care of me. He made me feel safe. When I was in pain, he was there for me. It didn't matter whether it was middle of the night or when he was at work. It didn't matter what it was. If there was something that was wrong, he was there for me. He put me first no matter what. And he made me feel loved. He would constantly be loving on me, kissing me. And it wasn't even just in the physical way. He was writing these beautiful, beautiful letters to me of how lucky that he felt to be married to me. We were so happy. Like we talked about in our How We Met video, we were happy. Like we played around all the time. We were like the funniest couple. Like we just couldn't be, I mean, we could be serious, but 90% of the time we were joking with each other, we were messing with each other, we were doing pranks on each other, we were just so in love with each other. Like there's so much laughter and so much connection. Like we really I felt like he was my best friend. Not that he was just the person that I married, but this was my best friend, and I could not imagine my life without this person because we did everything together and we had such a strong relationship. And didn't have secrets. We didn't have passwords on our phones. We'd swap phones all the time. We'd, you know, plug our phones in at the same time and not worry about them. No passwords, no secrets. Like I would take his phone to take pictures or to send pictures to myself. He'd do the same for me. Like we joke around and send each other's friends text messages from each other's phone, like as a joke. Just little things like that. Like we were so open. We had all of these open lines of communication. I loved his family, he loved my family. Like we were lucky. We were so lucky in the way that had panned out at first. And that was 2 months of complete bliss where everything was so perfect. It was, I mean, It sounds stupid, like I said, we had little fights, we had little arguments, but it was perfect. I was in heaven. Like, I was the happiest person alive, and I was living in those moments, and maybe that's why I was blindsided, but I truly believed and tossed myself into that. Like I've said, I've had things in my past where I didn't think that I wanted to get married, I didn't think that I wanted to have kids, but I knew that if I was going to get married, it was 100%. I was all in, and I was going to let myself fall into this and be so in love. And so that's what I did. And it was 2 months of complete and utter bliss. And nothing could have prepared me for what was to happen next. I am not a stranger to addiction. I have personally known somebody with almost, all of the major addictions: drug addiction, alcohol addiction, lust addiction, cigarette addiction. With all of the major addictions, I have, even gambling, I've known somebody personally who has struggled with that, who is an addict in that area. And so maybe addiction didn't hit me as hard as it has to others, but I have seen it. I have seen the effects of it to my friends, to my family, to people who are so close and important to me, and I've been there and watched a lot of that unfold over my life. So I am not a stranger to addiction. But none of the experience that I've had with prior addictions or with support groups or with the people, watching the people that I loved go through this and suffer through this, none of the experience that I had in that could have prepared me for what happened next in my own life, in my own marriage. And I thought that watching, my best friend go through this, watching my favorite uncles go through this, people that were so important to me, people that passed away due to their addictions, I thought that was so hard, and it was, but nothing prepares you to go through this. It's really hard. It was really scary, but I'm not going to go into addiction very much today. I mostly just wanted to talk about our love story. We went through things together that most couples don't go through before they get married, and I thought that was really telling and really true to our relationship. I honestly was so sure. I had somebody who asked me, he tried to challenge me and ask me, why do you want to marry this man? Are you sure that he's all these things? Have you asked these questions? Have you gone over this? And I defended him 100%, without a doubt in my mind. I wasn't just saying these things just to defend him. I was so sure of the man that I was marrying. And again, you can say that I might have been naive, I might have this and that. I checked the boxes. We did the 10 languages of love quiz. We did therapy. We did counseling together. We read marriage books together. We talked about our future. I asked him so many questions. I wasn't a stranger to these things. I was trying to make sure that we had things in check and that this was realistic and this was actually going to work and that this person actually loved me. Like I said, we'd gone through really hard times, really hard things, and we got through those things together. And so I thought that showed me how he worked under pressure in difficult situations, in situations where maybe we were fighting or we weren't getting along. And, I thought that I truly knew, and I might have still been naive. I was young. And no, we don't know everything about any relationship we're in. Every time that you're in a new relationship, you learn something new. You're constantly learning. You're constantly growing. And so maybe back then I was a little bit naive, and that's why I got to this point. But I was honestly so sure about the man that I married. There was not a doubt in my mind. So I know that some of you guys think that we're dragging these videos out. I've seen comments of people saying, I liked you guys, I liked your story, but you're dragging it out, so I'm gone. Or, you guys are dragging this out for views. The thing that you guys need to understand is we are real people. We are real people. This story is our lives. It's not just something that we made up. It's not just something that we imagined. This is our lives. And it's not just something that we are talking about 10 years into the future when we are in this great place and we're both happy and healthy and blah, blah, blah. We're talking about this right now when the pain that we feel is still real. I know a lot of people who are working on our project where you send in your story for the, if you guys haven't watched that, I'll link the video down below. But I know a lot of people who have started to write, you know, their stories down for us have said, I did not realize how emotionally draining this was going to be. I started to write and I had to take so many breaks because it was difficult. And that's the truth for us as well. Talking about this is very emotionally draining. It brings back a lot of emotions, happiness, pain, sadness, confusion. All of these are coming back for us to be able to talk about our past and not hide from it and pull out every little piece of it to be able to explain to you guys. We didn't have to share our story. We don't have to share our story still, but we've chosen to share our story. And it's not easy. It's really not, because it's bringing up so much pain and so much that maybe I didn't want to remember. It's hard for me to remember, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. It's hard for me to remember the happy times where I felt like I was so in love, because it makes me feel a little bit confused. The information that's come out over time has made me, and I hate that, but it's made me second guess those things that were so good, and in my mind I wanted to keep my happy memories over here and make them still feel real and separate from all of the pain and the confusion. But the truth is, I mean, they go hand in hand, they are together, they are one, it's part of our story, and we have to share them, but that's extremely hard for us to do. There have been times where I'm like, maybe I can't do this anymore, maybe I can't share our story, this is so difficult. Because I don't always want to talk about it. But I know that it's important not only for us, but for other people. And especially for our kids in the future, I want them to be able to look back on these and to understand. And these videos are so important to us. They're so important to us because if our children watch these in the future, if we watch these in the future, if they're able to help other people, we want to be able to say the right things and articulate our thoughts and be able to have what we want come across in the videos. And that's so difficult because I don't want to regret anything. I don't want to have bad quality videos. I want these to be something that we're proud of, that we know we did the right thing in recording these and sharing these with the world. So it's not easy. And so maybe we have been, and I'm going to say I have been dragging my feet a little bit, but like I said, we're living this right now. As you guys saw, just, what, a week, 2 weeks ago, I went through a hard piece of trauma again. I had to pull myself away. It was really difficult for us to go through that again. And so this is our lives that we're living right now. We are still affected by this right now. It's very emotionally draining. It's very difficult for us to record these videos. So yes, it's going to take a little bit for us to share our story with you guys. And another thing is, I mean, this has gone over a couple years span. We've been married for a while. We were dating before that. And so we truly cannot share our entire story and everything that we want to get across in one video. I mean, maybe we could, that would take forever and ever and ever to edit and to record, and that would be so difficult and so draining. So we're not going to do that. But like I said, I mean, I'm sorry if you guys are feeling like these videos need to come a little bit sooner, but we are doing our best to get these across. And like I said, we didn't have to share our story. We don't have to share our story. We're choosing to do this because of the lives that we've helped so far and the people that are helping us, and for our children, for ourselves in the future. And so I hope that you guys can understand that we're not doing this to be malicious or to just drag things along on purpose. We're trying to make videos that we are proud of and that we will be able to look back on in the future without any regrets. And so I hope that you guys can understand that in that aspect. So we will be doing these videos. The addiction will be coming out. We're not going to avoid that. It's going to be coming out. I just have to put a lot of thought in how I want these videos to come across and what I want to say in them, and how are we going to articulate this in the best way possible so that you guys can understand how we truly got to the point where we're at now, because we can't help anybody if you guys don't know how we got to this point or the things that we could have done that might have avoided this, that might have helped us so far. So that's all that I kind of have to say on that end. So I hope that you guys can understand that a little bit, and if you don't, I'm sorry. But that's just how it is, and a couple people have said, you know, when the addiction comes out, maybe people can relate to you more. The truth is, I don't think it matters what the addiction is, whether it's gambling, drugs, pornography, sex, alcohol, eating, you know, millions of different addictions. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. We can all relate to the feelings of hurt, pain, confusion, anger, stress, just all of the feelings that I'm feeling. We can all relate to that, no matter what your addiction is or what your husband's addiction is. We can all relate to the fact that addiction is a terrible, awful thing that destroys lives if you let it. So that's something we can relate to. The advice that I'm giving of support groups, forgiveness, and all of that, again, can relate to anybody. So we didn't talk about addiction very much in this video, and I'm sorry for that. Might not have been what you guys were looking for or waiting for, but we will be going into that very soon. The addiction series is our story. It's our story from square one, and that's kind of what we're trying to put across. And so this is the first video in the series, which it's just talking about our wedding and a little peek into our love life and what it was like at the beginning for us. So one other thing that I wanted to say really quick is next week we are going to have our first project video come out. So if you guys haven't watched the video, the project is basically people, whether you are the spouse of an addict, the child of an addict, the addict yourself, if you have been touched by addiction in any way, you can write in your story to us and we can share it for you anonymously. I think people have said that that would be really healing for them. People have asked us to do that, and so that's why we've started this project series. They said it would be very healing for them, and they've wanted to share their story for awareness and for other purposes, but they wanted to remain anonymous. So our first video of that will be coming out next week. It's a story about drug addiction, and the addict themselves actually wrote this, and it's, gosh guys, it's such a beautiful, touching story. I read it and I had to keep stopping because I was crying, and I felt the pain, and I felt love and compassion for this other person. It's a wonderful story. So please, if you didn't take anything away from this one, do not miss out on that video next week, because it's going to be amazing. Her story really did touch me in so many different ways, and I think that a lot of you guys can relate to that. And so that's another reason why we're starting the project series. Is it's going to incorporate everyone who's been touched by addiction. No matter what your addiction is, we want to share stories from drug addiction all the way to gambling addiction. We want to share stories from being the spouse of an addict all the way to being a child or just a friend. And so we're going to have such a wide variety of stories so that hopefully everyone can relate, and we can bring awareness not just to one particular addiction, but to addiction in general, and that we can all find support in each other and love in each other and understanding of what this really is and what it really means. So like I said, if you didn't take anything away from this video, please do not miss out on the one next week, because it's a great, very touching, very beautiful story coming from a very strong person who's been in recovery for a little while. She's a beautiful soul. So I hope that you guys watch that video and tune in for that. And like I said, we're going to continue in our addiction series and letting our story, our personal story, unfold to you guys. So thank you for your support, for your love, for your kind words. It truly means so much. Like I've said before in our other videos, if you guys need anything, somebody to listen to you, somebody to talk to you, somebody to feel like you can relate to, do not feel afraid to reach out to us. We've had people who email us, send us notes on Instagram, and I reply to everyone. It might not be as fast as I can, as fast as you might want me to, because I have so many to go through, but I'm replying to each and every one of you, and I do honestly feel for each and every one of you. I sit there and I cry sometimes for each and every story that I've read, and honestly wish that I could help each and every one of you. And if that's only giving support and that's all I can do, I hope that you guys reach out to us if needed. So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you guys continue to watch as our story unfolds and watch other people's stories, because I think that this can really help a lot of people if we do this the right way. So thank you for watching.